Hey there, Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome. Thanks for joining me in today's video. I've got something for the beginners. This is absolutely a beginning blues guitar lesson. I've been doing this now for 16 years. I think I started my YouTube channel back in 2008. I actually started doing this in 2006. So we're coming up on 20 years. Wow. And in any event, a lot of times the beginners get overlooked. And so I wanted to do a lesson to, if you're more on the beginning end of things, talk about a few things that you can practice on, give you some ideas, give you some things to begin to get your journey going in the right direction without hopefully having some of the pitfalls that I see a lot of beginning students go through. So the first thing that I want to talk about is single notes. And this is one of those things I see all the time. People talk about playing chords first, and we're going to get to chords and a 12-bar blues and all that. But first, make sure that when you're playing your single notes, all right, let's start with a very, very simple bluesy sounding thing. And if you want to know, this is the open E minor pentatonic scale. We're going to have the 3rd fret on the 1st string and the open 1st string, okay? And then we're going to do the same thing on the 2nd. 3rd fret and open. Now, what I want you to notice is my pick, okay? First of all, I want you to notice that I'm not grabbing my pick with any of these 3 fingers. I'm grabbing it with my thumb and my index finger. I use a smaller pick than a lot of people do, but even if I were using a big pick, you'd only have that little tiny tip sticking out. If you try to play with a giant amount of pick sticking out, it's going to be hard to control. It's just going to be all over the place. And if you find that you're constantly missing strings or things like that, you may want to keep that in mind. Also, you'll notice that when I pluck down on that 2nd string, I've got my 3rd finger, right? And notice I'm right up by the fret. If I'm back in the fret, it doesn't sound so good. If I get up by the fret, perfect. That's what we want. If I'm right on top of it, that's not good. I want to be just behind the fret, okay? And I want you to notice that my thumb is pointing up towards the ceiling. Hello. It is not pointing over there towards the window. That would be bad, all right? It should be pointing up towards the window, and hopefully you can wiggle it a little bit and say hello to yourself, right? So that's what we want. These are really, really important things that I often see overlooked. Right? My shoulders are comfortable. I'm sitting up straight. My knee is higher than my hip. I've got my foot on a little stool down here to keep my knee up above my hip. Otherwise, your guitar's going to fall off your lap, right? You don't want your guitar to fall off your lap. That's not good. So when I play that 3rd fret on the 2nd string, my pick is going to go through the string and rest on the next string. When I play the open 2nd string, my pick, you can see, is going to go down and rest on the 1st string. Now, this is obviously not something you can do on the 1st string, but by doing it on the 2nd string and then again on the 3rd string, we're going to play the 2nd fret and the open. Okay, so I can do this on those strings. Finally, I'm going to end at the 4th string, 2nd fret. Okay, by doing it on these other strings, I get used to how far I want my pick to fall. And then when I do it on the top string, I just go about that far. I just get used to it. Right? Now, right now, we're playing that with no time. Okay, we're just going through the notes. Now, this is the only time in your entire life that I will ever ask you to play something without having time attached. Usually, I'll talk about the time first, the counting. Okay, I'm big on counting. Anybody, if you've ever seen any of my videos, you know this is a big deal to me. If I can get you started doing it now, when you're first learning, everything's going to be better for the rest of your playing career. This is no joke. It's a huge thing. Keep this in mind. Every other instrument on the planet, piano, violin, other string instruments, horns, all right, whether they be woodwinds or brass, drummers, every single other instrument on the planet. Counting and timing is taught from day one. It goes right along with the music. For whatever reason, guitar players think they're immune to that. You're not. You have to be able to count. You have to know the time. And I can't tell you how many thousands of people I have seen in private lessons or online where as soon as I get someone counting, everything fixes itself. Because you know now, if the count doesn't line up with the music, you know you're doing it wrong. Okay, that's probably the biggest advantage to counting that we never talk about. You know if you're doing it wrong because you got to the end of the measure and you're still on 4, not on the and or the okay? So it's really obvious when you mess up. That's good. Believe me, that's a good thing, okay? So let's put some time to our little blues lick here. Okay, and again, we're going to get to chords in just a minute, but I think it's important to be able to play a single note before you try to play multiple notes. Just kind of makes common sense. So we're going to count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you probably heard a little click. That is the sound of my foot on my little tiny footstool, and that sound is very important. And you want to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that is what we call a swing feel or a slow blues feel. We divide each beat into 3 pieces. So I'm counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and very, very simple. Now, as you start to get better at it, a lot of times we don't say the and because we're not going to play anything there. Sometimes we don't say it. That's probably going to happen sometime in this video. I'm gonna not say it. I'll be taking a breath or something. It happens. But right now for you, count them all. That's just the best thing that you can do. So what we're going to do is we're going to play on the first 1 and 2. Notice that I tap my foot. And we're going to get that note there at the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. And okay, let's do that again. 1 and 2 and 3. Again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and let's try that again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now you might have to go even slower still, and that's okay. Go as slow as you have to go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you might have to go even slower. That's okay. Again, I want you to go as slow as you need to. Go as slow as you have to go to count out loud. It's important that your ears hear your voice. Okay, so go as slow as you need to go and play that lick and count it out loud. And if you do that, it's going to be very, 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 very slow. And that's okay. And it might be very, very, very slow for several days or maybe even a couple of weeks. I don't know. I don't know where you are now. I don't know where you're starting. I don't know your experience, okay? But it might take a little while. But what's going to happen is all of a sudden, you're going to kind of get the hang of it. And all of a sudden, you're going to be able to go faster. And it's going to go like that. It's going to be, all of a sudden, it's going to be really easy. And you'll wonder how you ever did anything without it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's just going to be like, okay, that's fine. I got it. I can do it. All right. So when you have that, that is a nice little blues lick. Now, obviously, it's a very simple blues lick, but it is a blues lick. It is a single note thing. I suggest you be able to play single notes first before we get into the chords. But let's get into the chords, okay? Now, the blues is based around something called a 12-bar blues, okay? And we're going to learn a 12-bar blues in the key of E. So the first chord that we're going to have is an E7. So I'm going to put my middle finger down here at the 2nd fret of the 5th string. I'm going to put my first finger on the 1st fret of the 3rd string, and all of the other strings will be open. And when you got the hang of that, what you're going to do is you're going to move your middle finger up to the 4th string, 2nd fret, and put your 3rd finger on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string. And what I want you to do is I want you to just barely creep that thumb over so that in the event you accidentally strum that 6th string, you don't hear it. And all of the rest of the strings are open. And that is an A7. We call this the 4 chord. We can talk a little bit more at length about the 1 and the 4 and the 5. But for right now, E is our 1, E7, sorry, make sure you put the 7. It's not major 7, it's not minor 7, it's what we call dominant 7. We just say E7. Blues is made from 7th chords. And then we're gonna move to our A7. See how easy? That's a simple move if you do it right. And then finally, I'm going to go back, and then I'm going to go back to my E7, and then from here I'm going to have to go to B7. Now, my middle finger is already there, so please don't move it. And I want you to take your first finger and just jump down a fret. Now my 3rd, so now it's on the 1st fret of the 4th string. My 3rd finger is going to go on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and I'm going to reach my pinky in there and get on the 2nd fret of the top string. And you can't really tell it by looking at it, but my middle, this finger that's down here, I shimmied it ever so slightly to touch that low E string, just to make sure that in the event I accidentally do strike it, I don't hear it. Okay, so we're gonna move. What's important here is that it's one thing to memorize a chord shape, okay? And obviously we've got E7 is a chord shape, A7 is a chord shape, B7 is a chord shape, okay? So we have 3 chord shapes. What's important though is to look at how you get from one to the next. Many beginners struggle with chord changes. That's probably one of the biggest things you're going to work on for the first year or 2 of your playing, is trying to change chords. Maybe not a year or 2, but for a long time, you're gonna probably struggle with chord changes. Well, the reason that usually happens is because I see students that play like that E7 and then they'll let go and start over and now have to go to the A7, and then they'll let go and start over and have to go to the B7. Okay. The reality is that sometimes you will actually change what fingers you use on certain chords to make it easier to get to the next chord. Okay, so I'm giving you fingerings for these. These are not the only way you can finger them, but they are ways that will make those changes easy, okay, or as easy as they can be. So we're gonna have to go, the 12-bar blues means we're gonna play 4 bars. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. 3 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so that's 4 bars of that E7. Okay, now I'm just strumming it and letting it ring for the whole bar. We're going to come up with some other options here in a minute. Then I'm going to switch to my 4 chord, which is A7, you may remember, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then I'm going to go back to my E7, 1 and 2. So that's why the E7 to A7 transfer is so important, because you can see we're going forwards and backwards. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2, 2, 3 and 4, and now I have to go to B7. So notice that I took you from E7 to B7, because that's important. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now is going to be the hardest change, is getting from the B7 to the A7, but it's really not as bad as it seems, because look, I'm just going to lift my pinky and my first finger up, and I'm going to take these other 2 fingers and slide them by 1 string, reach my thumb over there, hello, and I've got my A7. It's actually not that much work. Don't lift your hand up, okay? Don't do this. Go from here to here. Keep all your fingers close by, ready to go. And then of course from there, so I have my B7, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then to the 4, 1 to 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. We're down to the E7 again, and then we're going to end on the B7. So that's the 12 bars. 4 bars on E on the 1, 2 bars, bars 5 and 6 on the 4 chord, the A7, 2 bars on the 1 chord again, the E7. Sorry, couldn't help but make it cooler. And then, so that's bars 7 and 8. Bar 9 is the 5 chord, in our case the B7. Bar 10, the A7, in the 4 chord. Bar 11, the 1 chord, the E7, and bar 12, the B7, the 5 chord. And that is the 12 bar form, okay? So if we play the entire 12 bar form without stopping using these chords, we're just gonna strum on each downbeat, okay? So what we're gonna do is like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and let's start with that. Nice and simple, right? Here we go. 1. Oh, by the way, I'm going to count everything in. I encourage you to do the same. You'll notice that I'm going to say 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a to get us started. You got to decide how fast you're going to go. There's a reason rock bands all go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they start. So everybody knows how fast we're going, right? So whatever count you start at, right? Try and imagine what the music is going to sound like in your mind at that speed, because that's the speed that you should play it. What I hear a lot of students do is they'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then their actual speed will be like 1 and 2 and okay, so 1 and 2, 3 and 4. That's a little bit more where we want to be. Don't be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then start. It's not like that at all. We want to count 4 actual beats. All right, here we go. 1 and 2. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Second measure and 2 and 3 and 4 and third measure and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Fourth measure 2 and 3 and 4. Here's the A. 1 and 2 A7 3 and 4 and measure 6 2. Back to the 1, 1 to 2 and 3 and 4. Measure 8, 1 and 2 and 3 to 4. Here's the 5. Measure 9, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 to 3 and 4 and back to the 1, 2 and 3 and ended on the 5. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we'll end it with a nice little strum there on the 1. Okay, so that is a 12 bar blues. And that is a way to play a 12 bar blues. And you could very easily, like you could be hanging out with a buddy and you could just decide, I'll play rhythm, you play lead. You could play that. You can count out loud too. It's okay. Everybody loves a counter, believe me, right? So you could count, you can play, you can do that. If you can get it up to where maybe you're going a little faster, 1 to 2 and 3 and 4 and 2, right? It could even sound a little cooler. What you could also do is hit the guitar on the downbeats and the uhs. You remember I said earlier that sometimes we leave the ands out because we don't use them as much. So it could be like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the 5, the 4 chord. 1, 2, 3, and back to 1, 2, 3, 4. To the 5. To the 4. just literally start over, okay? So you could absolutely jam with a buddy and do that. And you play that rhythm, he can solo E blues or she can solo E blues till the cows come home. That will last you forever. It's a great way to just play a blues, right? That's simply what we want. Now, what we could do is we can do a little riff, okay? And this is probably the most common riff. Okay, and now that you've heard that feel, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can probably guess what this is going to be. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here's what's going on. I'm playing the open low E string, but notice that instead of using my middle finger to play that 2nd fret on the 5th string, I'm using my 1st finger to play that. And the reason that I'm doing that is because those are the only 2 strings I want. Okay, so my 1st finger is actually kind of killing everything else. And I'm also going to take a little bit of my right hand. I'm going to take a little bit of my picking hand, and I'm going to, right back here where the strings meet the bridge, I'm going to put my palm down there ever so slightly. This is a little bit more of an advanced technique. And admittedly, if you've never tried to play the blues before and this seems really hard, please don't try this right now. Okay, it's much harder to do this than it is to just strum the chord. Okay, so if it seems like I'm making a leap, I am. Again, I don't know where everybody's at. I don't know where everybody's coming from. But please, if this next thing that I'm about to show you seems impossible, I mean, it's a good thing to practice on. It's a good thing to try, but make sure you can do the simple lick and the strumming chords first. If you can do those things, give this a shot. So again, I'm using just a little bit of mute. Otherwise, I get that. I guess it's not a horrible sound, but it's not my favorite sound. I like to keep it under control. I just think that sounds better. So again, I'm just gonna pick those bottom couple of strings. My 1st finger, again, is kind of folded over so that I don't, if I happen to hit a couple of those extras, it's not a big deal. And I'm going to use my 3rd finger to get the 4th fret on the 5th string. Now, sometimes I use my pinky, sometimes I use my 3rd finger. You can do either one, but there's a variation where you might need your pinky out there on the 5th fret. So to prepare you for that, I'm not going to get into that variation today. This video is going to be pretty long as it is, but I want you to be ready for it. So for now, you should be able to put, you know, my 1st finger's here, right? My 3rd finger's here on the 4th fret. I should be able to add my pinky to the 5th fret and notice that all of my fingers are still on the string. If you find that you have to do this and you can't keep these fingers on the string, it's because of your wrist angle and it's because of where your thumb is. Okay? I don't know if you can really see. It's hard to get that in the frame, but my wrist, again, is pointed kind of up and that way. Like here's my thumb. Hello. Right? I just drop it down behind. If I take my thumb and I curve it out that way like a baseball bat, I have no reach. I can't stretch them. It's not going to happen. Okay, so notice that, see how my wrist is up? I'm going to drop my wrist. And so I should be able to get all 4 of those fingers in place. If you can do this, your hand position is correct. Full stop. End of story. Everybody's hand position is going to look a little bit different. That's okay. If you can do this, it's correct for you. Okay? If you can't do this, it's incorrect for you. And you have to fudge it. You might have to stick your elbow out. You might have to get your guitar up a little bit higher. I can tell you, silly as it sounds, if I were to play my guitar like this, boy, it'd be easy. At least for some things. Okay? I always say the higher the headstock of the guitar gets to your actual head, the easier it will be to play. So it might just be you need to get the guitar up, maybe put a strap on it and get it up a little higher. Everybody's body is different, so you'll have to figure out what works for you. But let's go back to what I was playing. So this is where the counting is really big, because what I don't want you to do is memorize 02, 02, 04, 04, open and 2. Don't, no. Don't, please. That's just a horrible way to live your life. We're going to go on 1 and 3. We're we're down here. On 2 and 4, we're up here. Plain and simple. This is the kick drum, this is the snare drum, okay? Drums go, you know, kick on 1 and 3, snare on 2 and 4. That's what we're gonna do. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. I'm lifting my finger up so you can see the movement, but normally I would leave them down. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. And when we go to the 4 chord, it's the same, but it's the 5th string and the 4th string. 3, 4. Okay, so I could use that. 1 and 2 and 3. 2, 2, 3, 4. Bar 3. Bar 4. Then the 4 chord. Second bar. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chord. Okay, I don't want to make this stretch. It's a thing. Yes, you can do it, but it's hard. Okay, 2nd, 4, up to 6. Right, that's a tough stretch for anybody. So let's not try that today. Let's just play the chord. So after the E, it's going to be a tough change anyway, right? Just to get there, because I'm going to have to go from there to there. And that's going to be a little bit more challenging anyway. So what I might do is I've got 2 bars of the 1. 1, 2, 3, and I might switch over to that. Then A, I could go back to this, then to the E, and I could 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and right. I can have a big build. I can build it up right there. You can strum every time. You can strum only on the downbeats and the uhs. You can mix and match those riffs however is most comfortable to you. Okay. Now, if you really want to get creative, you can start to insert the blues lick I showed you way back at the beginning of this lesson with strumming the chords or doing the classic blues riff in E. Again, depending on where you're at, this is going to be easier or more challenging. But I could do something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and what I want you to notice that I did right there is I just played that first note of the chord because it was I couldn't get there in time. Nobody could get there in time. I mean, I could, but it's not necessarily going to sound good. So what I did is I went from the E to 3, 4, 1. And I just put that finger down and I put everything else in place by the time I got to So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. Okay, so all of these different things, all of these different elements can very easily mix and match into whatever you want them to be. Okay. Now, I would be remiss if this is useful to you. I do have a course called Beginning Blues Guitar. I'll leave a link near this video, depending on where you're seeing it. It very much kind of flows like this, but goes all the way from those, single note kind of bluesy sounding simple licks, all the way through playing the blues in E, the blues in A, getting all the way into bar chords, movable chord shapes, all that stuff, with counting, with the, you know, with the tabs for everything on screen and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's all there. It's laid out in a very methodical way. But what I want to be clear about is that you have to do this stuff in order, right? It's easier to play single notes than it is to play chords. So you got to practice on some single note stuff first. When you get to the chords, you got to get to where the chords are fairly easy to move around, and that you look at how you change from one chord to another. That's actually many times more important than the chord shape itself. You have to practice going back and forth between the different chords. Later on, you're going to have to practice different strum patterns. That's something that I cover in courses, but you know, and there are YouTube videos for that as well of mine. But you got to get the chords first. Then you can work on different ways to strum them, right? Of course, the count is vital all the time. I counted, you'll notice, through this whole entire video. It's very important that you count out loud. Later on, you can get to things like the blues and E rhythm with the muting on the right hand, all that kind of stuff, putting and combining things together like that. You just have to take things in order. Okay, so as each thing gets comfortable, it can start to become a part of just what you play. But until it gets comfortable, it's going to be really hard to add. So hopefully this has kind of opened your eyes a little bit. If you are a beginner, I've given you several things you could potentially work on. So just, you know, come back to this video as you learn each little thing. Just come back to this video, bookmark it or save it or whatever it is that you do. You know, come back to the video, go to the next thing that you don't understand how to do, and practice on that. And then go to the next thing that you don't understand how to do and practice on that. And you could actually, you know, take a month probably with this video, just coming back and going through the little sections if you truly are a beginner. The other thing I'll advise you to do is really take into account and really pay attention to these little technique things that I talked about, like not using fingers on the right hand to hold the pick. That's a real easy thing you can do. And you may not even notice that you're using that middle finger to hold the pick. I see that on many, many, many. That's probably the most common technical error I see from my students, and it's easy to do and not notice. So do pay attention to that. And things like, you know, looking at, can your fingers get on all of the frets? That's a great litmus test, right? If I can play I can put a finger on one on each fret, 1, 2, 3, 4, on all 6 strings, then my hand position is good. And if you can't, then you know your hand position needs a little bit of work. Okay, it's not like it's the end of the world. It's not that you're never going to get there. Now you know what to do. Lift the guitar up. It's almost always that. Find wherever it is that you can do it, right? Hold it however, don't be shy. Put it wherever you need it. Go, okay, this is where I can do that. Okay, now, how do I let this come down and get on my lap? What is my shoulder? What is my elbow? What all these things have to do to make that happen, right? So start with the end and then move the guitar around to a comfortable, you know, playing position. It's going to be different for everybody. We've all got different shapes and sizes. So you just got to kind of work with that and figure it out. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this video up. I know it's been really long. I hope if you stuck with me this long, congratulations. Yeah, you're clearly invested, which is awesome. And I want to see you do amazing on your guitar journey, no matter what. So as always, if you have guitar playing friends that you think would dig this video and you want to share it with them, I encourage you to do that. I'll leave some links near this video, both to my beginning blues guitar class, my website, all kinds of stuff like that. I do encourage you to find some instructor. There's gobs of them, obviously, but I encourage you to find an instructor that resonates with you, that you feel like, okay, I get this, I understand this, it makes sense. 99 out of 100 times, that's more important than whether or not that instructor is good or not. That's not always really what matters. The connection tends to be more important. I see this all the time, particularly in my younger students, but even with adults. You know, if they come in and it's just not a match, they're not going to do what I ask. They're not going to get better. It's not going to work for anybody. But if we get along well and the things that I say make sense, then things are going to go well. So if the things that I say to you are making sense and you're like, yeah, this totally makes sense, I get this, then please do it and go watch some of my other videos and maybe go to the website, etc., etc., etc. Okay, that's it. Again, I'm Griff Hamlin from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Thanks for joining me for all this. Again, I applaud you if you stayed this long, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.